Well, good August the 8th. It is such a good time to be able to get with you today to talk about another Lunch and Learn with Tony Woodard with the Department of Labor and Licensing, HVACR program. We're so glad that you've tuned in. Again, it's Tom Hunt with the Arkansas HVACR Association and Tony Woodard with the Department of Labor and Licensing. Tony, good noon to you, sir.
Good noon to you. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Well, we're going to be talking about ductwork today. And you know, when I first got into this business, everybody used to say, "Well, you could hire a one-armed monkey to do ductwork. There wasn't anything smart to it." Well, over time, we found out that there's just a little bit more than that involved, haven't we?
Yes, we have. It is very critical, especially with the variable speed units and critical sizing of returns and so forth. That's right.
All right. Well, we're going to go through some code issues and how we come up with duct sizing. We won't get into anything in great depth, but we're going to kind of hit the top of it and be able to kind of get you pointed in the right direction. If you do not own a manual D, you need to consider investing in one. If you do not own a 2021 ICC mechanical code. So we're going to go to 603.2 duct sizing. Jump in here, Tony.
Duct sizing. This is one of the things that the state inspectors write up daily. It's undersized supply, undersized return. And I'm going to jump in there with Tom. When you buy or purchase your IMC, well, I strongly recommend you pay the difference and buy the IMC commentary. It is outstanding this year. It is plug and play, pictorial after pictorial, explains the code, then it comes down to common sense. It says this is exactly what we mean, and then behind that is a picture. So yeah, I strongly recommend you dive into that. It's only $30 more, and it's worth every penny.
Code should be simple, but you know what we think we are communicating doesn't always come across like we thought it would, and that's where the commentary comes in to say this is what people actually were trying to say. Absolutely. So duct sizing basically is going to reference over to ACA Manual D.
And your SMACNA duct construction standards. For those that do more like commercial, you're gonna fall back into SMACNA duct construction standards. But the residential world, you've got to get your manual D. That's your Bible.
Well, we've got some issues on metal thickness, which we've talked about before, but we're going to kind of get into it here very quickly and talk about how it affects us when we're doing with round duct diameter and galvanized pipe. And these are listed in the thickness rather than in gauge. So we need to kind of convert to gauge because that's how we buy our metal. And Tony, the licensing board has made a exception to this right here, haven't they?
They have, and I really wish we could take that chart and where your area is right there on half inch, put a big R for their world of return, and then over to the right, put as your S for your supply. But this half inch, yes. So there is a memo out for residential ductwork, and it is single family dwelling. Don't get confused with multifamily. Single family dwelling, 4-inch to 10-inch. They still allow 30 gauge. Now that is for supply return only. I mean, if you're in that criteria, that doesn't meet the dryer exhaust, the kitchen exhaust, the bath exhaust. This is just for the ductwork. And once you get above 10-inch, then you're out of the 30 gauge deal. We have spoken at length with distributors. I think across the board on the 4-inch, they're not even going to stock the 30 gauge. So there won't be an issue if you're buying your 30 gauge and you're going to run it for dryer or bath exhaust. It's going to be 28. And I see the 28 coming all the way across the board. I do.
So if you're looking at your ICC 603.4, it's going to call for 0.013 on that 12 to 14, which is a 29 gauge, but you can't buy a 29 gauge. So it's going to be that 28.
30 or 28, correct. Going to be the right.
All right. Now, when we jump down to a little bit larger size, it's talking about 27, which means you're going to have to go to 26, doesn't it?
26. That's correct. You will. You have to step up. Once you get above 14, you're going to be 26 gauge. And that's where we hear, well, the pipe metal's so high, I'm going to run flex duct. That's fine. But however, you're running the same size flex duct. And if you're a 9, 10, 14 foot run, you might be all right. But we're seeing them stretched out there, full length of the 25-foot, not you're undersized, you're not stretched to 4%. We're going to have to do it correctly. We see that daily.
Rectangular duct, similar instructions. Just need to get into your 603.4 and you can find it out there. We've got so much to cover. I'm going to run that by this pretty fast. It talks about minimum fasteners now, not less than 3 sheet metal screws.
Yeah, think about that. 20-inch duct, and they're saying you can get away with 3 screws. Seen that? Spaced equally apart. Meets code. Bad practice, folks. Bad. Let's not be putting 3 screws in an 18 and 20-inch duct, but according to the code, that's legal.
All right. Gypsum ducts. We have in the past had a lot of confusion about being able to line, for example, a return air with gypsum.
That is only allowed when you're going to go into a change out retrofit situation. With new construction, you're going to have one option solely for the return duct. That's going to be a slab construction. Your unit is at the end of a closet or a hallway. It is completely surrounded 360 degrees by conditioned space. It's a pump and dump. You're pumping the return in where the unit's sitting on the platform. Filter grill is at the base. You have a 10% total duct return supply system or less. That is the only option where you 2 before that and sheetrock it. Anywhere else on crawl space, in the attic, on the exterior wall, you're going to be made out of a non-combustible rated plenum, means metal return. So that's your only option with the gypsum.
Duct length. Flexible air ducts shall not be limited in length. There are some cities that do limit it, don't they, Tony?
They do. And this code is actually duct connectors. It's kind of confusing. That is for duct connectors, your canvas connector for your VAV boxes, hospital settings, so forth, and things like that. However, several cities have gone back and amended their ordinances. They read this in the code, and that's what they limited it. I'll give you Alma, Malvern, some others just flat outlawed it together. They allow the 3 to 6 foot on a drop-in ceiling per our fire code, where you're going to hard pipe, turn a 90, and drop into your drop-in grid. But other than that, it's outlawed everywhere else. So be sure to check with your ordinance. Condensation. Major issue when we went to micro channel variable speed units and old existing duct systems where we're used to 58, 60 degree air. You swap that out to a new system, you're getting 48 degree air out. The old vinyl white wrap can't maintain, boy, it'll sweat. And we resolved a lot of issues in crawl spaces and other areas with the new closed cell foam, believe it or not. So you gotta, and I hear this all the time. I'm in a 2-story application. I'm between floors. So I'm not going to insulate my ductwork because I'm in the trussing area between my 2nd and 3rd floor, or my 1st floor and my 2nd floor. Incorrect. That is an ancillary space. That is not conditioned space, and that will be insulated ductwork. Plain and simple. Duct socks. Yes, this is really, really starting to be popular in schools, gymnasiums, church assemblies, and cannabis. For you mechanical end folks, I know they've kind of held that back, but it's coming legal, and there's going to be several of them, and they've learned over the last 3 years that cannabis isn't abrasive. It's abrasive type of plant. It puts abrasive chemical in the air naturally, and it will eat up metal. And the air distribution system, I know that a lot of the cannabis locations have gone back to these because that's what works. But this is really getting popular in assembly areas, churches, schools, gymnasiums. They work real good. And they have got them down to 1-inch water column now instead of where they were all dispersed at 2-inch. They do have them in what I'd say a residential design.
I'm sorry. I just get the humor in that it's a good thing for churches and cannabis factories.
Well,
I've
had to grip my mind around, I think about it. It's a product like a beer manufacturer or somebody makes Frito-Lay, you know, I mean, it is a product that is now and almost nationwide about to be legal, which it's just going to be the product that this company manufactures. I just, you know, we need to get everybody to, they're charging them tax. We, you know, the contractor, we are trying to, by next spring, actually have some training on this, because there's going to be a lot of opportunity for heat and air person, because those have never dealt with putting condensers like at a waste station or a area where there's abrasive air. You learn a quick education about how quickly these things eat up by corrosive product.
I never realized that. That's very interesting information. Registers, grills, and diffusers, volume dampers.
Yes, volume dampers, adjusted L and supply volume dampers, quadrant takeoffs. We're starting to educate a lot of the contractors that never came. Say you didn't come from a light commercial side, where we would be told we need 88 CFM right there. I mean, the volume dampers, they're trying to educate everybody, get them on board. And, you know, the new code is getting particular about, you know, the old school way of doing things to get it critical that you're doing it properly. So yes, the volume dampers.
So if you're going to adjust the airflow, you've got to have something to adjust it with, huh?
That's correct.
Prohibited locations, diffusers and registers and grills shall be prohibited where?
Okay, the floor area, this is where the dwelling unit, single family dwelling, is where they're going. You can get the old brown 300-pound rated, just snap it and drop it in. But you need to think about that a minute. If you try to meet the energy code, a drop-in grill, you know, it's designed where it can pick up and drop in. You got to ensure that boot is caulked and sealed real good, you know, and it's just, we're you know, the old toe kick deal, we got away from that. And we're trying to kind of get away from this. But think about it, if it's a crawl space, your duct's up underneath. That's an outside wall, even if it's a 4x10. If it's a small bathroom, we have to treat it. That's why that dwelling unit, they still allow the diffuser, but commercial, man, they don't want it. They do not want it in there at all. Fire issue. Yeah. The 4 inches. Yep.
Go ahead.
Yep. Can't be near dirt. Too many are resting in the dirt. Walk away from that job. I mean, do you want to really get down there and shovel all this out and get it under there? This is where we've been involved with indoor air quality issues, from cystic fibrosis, Legionella, any type of lung issue, because you've got leaking duct and you're bringing spores and radon and all this stuff up off the ground now. There's hazards out there. So, you know, seal your duct. If it's got to be under there, it's got to be 4 inches above grade. And you know, the topography is not just always level under there. So 4 inches at one spot resting on dirt on the other is not 4 inches. So,
and everybody that's just been in residential heat and air has crawled under a house and seen ductwork just laying in the ground everywhere.
Yes,
and if they fixed it, they got in there with a little bitty shovel and just started shoveling it out. It's a tough job.
Hard job. Nobody, that's why folks don't want to do it.
Yeah. Plastic ducts and slabs.
Okay.
This is not, again, for dryers. This is strictly for comfort cooling.
Comfort cooling. Blue Duct has come out with a product that Black Max, not knocking Black Max, they've been around a long time. Blue Duct has seemed to be one of the best products I've seen as far as condensation. You got to understand, you're underground. And it depends where you are. You're at the base of that duct, because majority of folks do not backfill that with the gravel the way it's supposed to be. You're staying real close to 6 degrees. We have a condensation issue. And to do duct systems under the slab correctly, they are supposed to come from plenums and branch ducts to a trunk and have continuous fall to a clean out to clean that water out. And think about that now. I mean, if it's not a 4 or 5 cinder block high slab, that's getting real tricky to keep a slab duct system where somewhere you're going to have continuous fall to drain that, pull it out and drain the water out, because they're going to build up condensation, a lot of it.
Which kind of makes you ask yourself, do you really want to live in a home where you know you've got water collecting inside the ductwork? Sealing of ducts and slabs shall be sealed, secured, and tested prior to concrete encasement or direct burial. My word in heaven, how would you go about doing that?
3 inspection process. You're going to be out there inspecting the day they dig the footers. You're going to be out there inspecting the day they are securing the duct. With the blue duct, it has a screw, but it has a certain type of sealant that goes around it. So you're going to spend a day. Your inspection for that contractor and that inspector for that day, they're locked in that day. They're going to be there to witness this, to watch all that, the backfill, the sealing, the covering it up. It's going to take some time.
So whatever you do, when they ask you if you want to put one in the slab, don't shrug your shoulders as though it's not any big deal. There's some serious cost involved, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. We're going to move on to here because there's some things I really want us to get into, Tony, and we'll work on this again in the future. But I want to get to this one slide we've got here, right here, where we're talking about return error, because I'm going to make a comment. You can tell me if it's right or wrong. I think that we have more problems with the size of return error than we do anything else in our industry.
95% correct. Yes, I agree with you. That's an issue when we start CEU training, we really need to address.
Here we go, where if we look at this slide, you see right there, we have restriction under 1, and there's what this is saying is that no matter what grill you put in, there's a certain amount of restriction. And Tony, most of the time I'm seeing anywhere from 25 to 30% restriction. Would you say that's about right? That's
correct. And if this chart you're showing them there, any heating air contractor, no matter what brand you use, Kruger, Hart and Cooley, Metal Fab, Airmate, whatever you use has these charts. But they also start from 0 to 10 to 15 to 20. The minimum is 25%. So you have to start at the minimum of 25% to come across over to what we need if it is a true filter grill. If this is our first static drop, then we are trying to achieve, this is matching per ACA Manual D, Magna Duct Construction Standards. They're stating they want it in that 300 feet per minute for noise continuation reasons, first static drop. That's what they're trying to achieve. And you see, to maintain that, that's a very large square inches. That 395 is in the acceptable range because we're in our 400. But if you look at that same page and drop down to that 20 by 20, look how the decimal level goes up considerably. You know, it's going up. But then I like how you've got it highlighted to the 475 and so forth. Thinking a stamp face scenario is a drop in. That's not what we're filtering. Say we have RTU on the roof. We have a 2-inch filter there. We're filtering it. Here's a little different scenario. We move up to, and the recommendation is 500 feet per minute on a stamp face grill. So you can get a little smaller. Like say the 20 by 20 I was saying, where you go in commercial and you see the 20 by 20s laying in there, 3 or 4, versus the 25 by 25s, because they're stamp face. They're meeting that velocity as what's required. And these charts are very neat, and you can get them.
So what I want to do here then is take us through here step by step. And I'd like for everybody listening to ask yourself, okay, if you're going to put in a 3-ton system, typically what size grill are you going to put in? And you just say that to kind of yourself, and then we're going to come back in just a minute and show you how that affects it. And we're going to say we've got a restriction of 30%, which that's showing. And our next opportunity here is to say, okay, what airflow per ton? Well, a lot of systems these days have 350, but we're going to stay at 400 because that's just kind of traditionally where we've been. So we'll leave that at 400. And then we will say, okay, what is our nominal tonnage? I ask you about a 3-ton system. So, and then our question would then be, okay, what is the design CFM? Well, at 400 CFM per ton, 3 tons would be 1,200. If you put in a 20 by 25, you would end up with a velocity of 395. Now, here's my question to you, Tony. I can tell you the way I've taught it over the years. I've always said 300 is where you need to be. 500 is definitely far, far too fast. But if you can't do any different, if the homeowner and the builder won't let you do anything else, you might could slide with 400, but I wasn't talking code. I was just talking real world, what you can try to get by with. What do you say? Does it have to be 300 or what portion of it? How do you treat that?
We're still looking at the 400 and down. So that we would approve that grill right there.
Right.
And now, well, and then, you know, it's kind of a case by case. So, I mean, when we find contractors that do this with multiple returns, we seem to be okay. Now, I want to stress that if we're doing one central return, guys and gals, let's try to achieve that 300, because they're going to complain, well, every time my air comes on, my volume can't get loud enough on my TV. You know, okay. So yeah,
I see a lot of 20 by 20 type grills. Let's see what happens there.
Right.
It won't even work for a stamp face grill.
Yeah. And this chart doesn't break it down to where, say you had, so that was a 3-ton, but you had two 14-inch ducts feeding 220 by 20s. It does change that. So, I mean, I understand they had to have a fixed chart. I get that. I do. So there is some job by job variance there.
Yeah. Well, let me come here just a second. All right. At a 30 by 30, right here, you see a 30 by 30. You're going to have an airflow of 274, which you're in certainly good shape there. Right. But you've got 900 inches of gross area, right?
Correct.
It marches down to about 630 when you're looking at the net. But if you're going to put in multiple grills, the total of the two grills, for example, would have to be 900 inches.
900, correct. That's correct.
So this is such a huge area. And of course, it's not just a matter of quote meeting code. It's a matter of the life expectancy of the equipment, the comfort of the people, the air noise that's in the house. What you mentioned a while ago reminded me of a house I used to live in, that anytime the unit came on, you had to turn the TV up.
I'll tell you what we're seeing. We'll see the grill sized properly, but the main duct you're feeding it with is undersized. So you need to remember, you know, I got a 25 by 20 and I've got a 12-inch duct feeding that. You're 1 ton. So, you know, so that's something we got to work on as well.
So the size of the grill doesn't help you if you've got a soda straw on the backside.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, that old cherry limeade you're drinking and the strawberry sucked up the straw. You can't get nothing else out of it. I'm with you.
That's true.
Yep.
One of the things we need to remember, and we're going to hit this really, really quickly because I've rattled too much today, is that remember that effective January the 1st, you've got to have 4 hours of continuing education. And that between now and then, your distributors are going to be putting on lots of classes. We're going to be having these continuing education expos in 8 different locations across the state. And we'll be putting that information out the end of this week or the first of next week. So if you have a license that is being renewed this year, you don't have to worry about it. Is that correct, Tom?
Correct. That's correct.
But come January 1, sure.
Yes, and we're hoping the January, February, March license renewals will attend these fall trainings to kick this off and get this going so that we'll just be streamlining. And with that said, at the end, I want to add something, but go ahead. Yeah, we're moving along with this, and you're doing a great job with us on this, Tom, and can't thank you enough for that.
Well, you know, and all the distributors, I am so grateful for our continuing education expos. Our distributors are stepping up, saying that they want to provide training during those expos. And some of them are stepping up saying, what can we do to help register people and all that kind of thing. So I'm excited about it because I'm viewing each one of them like as a little mini convention for everybody to get together and shake hands and eat together and have some training together, try to bring our industry together working as a profession. What did you want to get into, Tony?
We have, with the latest you sent me, we have 10 providers approved now. And of course, once the online come on, those will be other issues. The goal was to try to get 12 providers. We're already at 10 before this is kicked off. I think the end goal where I said we might have 15, I think that's going to be achievable, plus the online. So I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity. There's several individuals that don't want to be in person. They want to do it online. And there's other folks that hard-headed, just like me, that I need to see it, touch it. So I learn on, hands-on. I think it's going to be a good asset both ways, but it's going. It's moving in the right direction at a speed that I'm really happy with.
We've got 3 more providers that'll be participating in our expos that I still need to send to you. And we're also developing online classes that we feel like are going to be structured for Arkansans the way we like to be taught. So it's a lot of work going on, but it's very exciting. I'm so glad that Department of Labor and Licensing is going through whatever they've got to go through. I know it's hard, I really do, but this is going to be so much better. When it's rolling, we're going to see a much better profession that we all are a part of and are proud to be a part of. Tony, thank you, sir.
Okay, they asked a question. I just real quickly, what they asked about the online. We do know, I'm just going to kind of answer that quick chat there. We do know it'll be available by January, like Tom just mentioned. Hopefully before then. It's a lot of effort on his part to get that up and rolling, but it's coming quickly, the online training. I don't know if we can give you a firm data. By December 1st, it'll be there. I'm still wanting to keep the direct data. We know by January it'll be available online.
I don't know if we'll make it, but our goal is that by October the 1st, we'll have 1 class up. And if we do that, and that'll be code, they'll be able to get those 2 hours of continuing education relative to code if they want to get it via online. Our big thing that's slowing us down right now is the cost of the software and getting that set up. We will get that taken care of this week and then spend the next month and a half putting together that first code class. So there's a lot to do, and it will certainly not be the only people. There will be distributors and other providers of continuing education that you can get it from. You may like them a lot better than looking at my bald head, so that's okay. Tony, thanks a bunch. Tell Lindsay and everybody over there we said hello and that we appreciate all that they do for our industry. Thank each of you for having tuned in today. We will, by this afternoon or first thing in the morning, have a link sent to you so that you'll be able to rewatch this on YouTube. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you. We can't say it enough. We'll talk to you again in September.